what is your opinion? Why the media literature, media ecology and education is important and beneficial nowadays?
Well, first I'll say that media ecology incorporates media literacy. So media ecology is interested in communications technology when we think about media literacy, but it's also interested in media much more broadly. So it's interested in technologies and every other thing that mediates us, even one another, we mediate each other. And one of the common sayings for a media ecologist is that we mold our technologies and then our technologies mold us. And therefore, it's interesting for us to consider how we are being changed by our technologies in a variety of ways. And we can ask also, are they changing us for better or for worse? And to ask that question, I think, is somewhat revolutionary, because we often think that it's just automatically for the better. In fact, American culture and global culture, I think, has begun to almost replace religion with technology. And so this actually spells a bit of a crisis ethically and morally for us. The World Health Organization has suggested that in a number of years, depression will be the leading debilitating factor for people, the most common illness. And we might ask why that is. I mean, it's very peculiar that that should be the case. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that our culture now, we have massive technological change happening all the time, so that modern humans live much differently than predecessors. So for instance, when the printing press came, there was no major technological development in communication for 500 years. So for 500 years, human beings could adapt to the changes of the printing press, whereas now we have massive changes beginning in the 19th century, to the present now, every few years. So we're constantly readjusting and readapting to a new environment. And this may, I think, have something to do with the fact of our potential troubles in terms of our unhappiness, etc. When we think about technological change as well, we can think about some problems that our technologies have caused. So for instance, climate change. This is in essence a technological problem which needs a technological solution, which we're trying to put into effect. And of course, technologies always create winners and losers, and the former winners don't like to become losers, and so they stay in their spot and fight the changes that need to be made in terms of having new energy sources to try and prevent further change in climate. And that leads, I think, also to the idea that we want to ask again, do our new technologies make us better or worse? To ask that question means that maybe we don't necessarily want all technological changes, particularly those that are going to cause us so much difficulty, as in this big systemic problem of climate change. So it changes us on the individual level, and it changes us collectively. And so understanding what those changes are important if we're going to ensure human survival. And media ecology at basis is interested in human survival.
And how do you think can media and technological progress bring people together, unite them?
Well, they unite us in our enthusiasm for them, often. A number of people are concerned that they also divide us. So, for instance, a lot of pictures of people all together working on their phones, for instance, maybe walking together down the street, both talking on the phone. It seems peculiar to us. So I think there are cases to be made that they do bring us together in certain points and certain instances, but they can also divide us, and we have to be paying attention to how those things happen.
And so tell us about your yesterday presentation.
Well, yesterday I was trying to give an outline of what media ecology is concerned with, and I was telling about a classic definition of media ecology is that it's interested in the interactions between people and their media environment. And that media environment consists not only of communications media, as I've said, but technology, what's called technique, that is ways of doing things towards rational sorts of ends, making things most efficient, and also other sorts of processes. I spoke about how we mediate one another by our presence very often. And so media ecology is concerned with how our interaction with these things influence our thought, our feeling, what we value, and how we behave. So that was my sort of instance of trying to give definition to media ecology. And then I spoke about two different traditions of thought that really come together to create a broader form of thought. And that was looking at media as environments, but also looking at environments as media. And so environments as media most of the time are interested in our social environments and how we interact with one another and the spaces that we occupy, whereas thinking about media as environments are interested in how the technologies form environments within which we exist. And I was also talking about the Media Ecology Association, which is an international academic and non-academic organizations, so not all academics are necessarily part of it. Some people in business also participate. The organization has met in Canada, in the United States, in Mexico, and most recently in Italy, the first conference outside of North America. And so the organization is a small organization, a small number of people, but it works to promote media ecology and the understanding of media, or a broad media literacy. And it does this in a number of ways, through an academic journal, through an annual conference, and through many other projects where a number of scholars will present ideas about media ecology in other forums as well, usually communications associations.